Hello and welcome to the Good for Business show. I'm your host, Michelle J. Raymond, founder of Good Trading Co., all-round LinkedIn expert, and very excited to be here with you. So thanks, Laura, for jumping in so early. I'm just sitting here. We're expecting Zoe Bermant from social media to join me to have this conversation about LinkedIn for over 50s. Now, is it actually different or is it really, same? And we really wanted to have this conversation. Now, I'm hoping that Zoe is just caught up with, some kind of storm at work and she'll be popping on sometime soon. In the meantime, I'm going to fill the air and, basically give you my thoughts on what I think, is really different about LinkedIn for the over 50s. So I did a bit of research before this just to see what the stats are about the demographics on LinkedIn. And so far, it's actually, and I didn't expect this, over 60% of LinkedIn actually fit in the category between 25 and 34. So that's really not that many. And so if you think about it, if we go up to the other end, 50 plus, worked out roughly around 5 to 10%. So not a lot, but does that mean it's not important? Absolutely not. Because if we're looking at numbers of 830 million people on LinkedIn these days, that is crazy amount of people that we're talking about today. So if you are under 50, thanks for joining in the conversation. I fall under that category. I'm a grand total of 46, so I'm almost there. Got a little way to go yet. So if you're over 50, I'd love to hear about your experiences on social media in general, LinkedIn in particularly. How have you found it? Is it something that you actually find is a challenge? Is it something that it's like, it's no big deal, Michelle? I don't even know why we're having this conversation. So let me know what you think so I can bring you guys into this conversation. So let's talk about LinkedIn for a minute. So LinkedIn turned 19 this year, just in March. So it's been around for almost 20 years. So it's one of the oldest social media platforms. So it's not the hip and cool and trendy, just like, I know Jim Wolf, I know you're listening here today. You're a big fan of TikTok. It seems to be what all the cool kids are doing, and 50 plus can do it as well, right? So let people know in the comments your experience of that. So yeah, LinkedIn, been around 20 years. It started off so basic, and I've seen a couple of the old screenshots. It was almost just like a place that you could put your resume up. And, I'm going to give a copy of Business Gold out to the person that has been on LinkedIn for the longest. So what year did you start on LinkedIn? So for me personally, it wasn't 19 years ago. Mine only 8 years ago. So a baby in the big scheme of the world. But let's go back 20 years ago about the internet. So talking around the 2000s, my experience back then was more chat rooms, and I remember I thought it was the most incredible thing in the world that I could sit in, my bedroom and dial up, on the internet and don't talk on the phone at the same time and, mortgage your house to be able to afford the internet. And you would get into these chat rooms and you'd be able to talk to people, type all over the world. And so for me, it just opened up my universe. And I remember actually, talking to a person that at that time was in Florida, other side of the world. And my head was like, there is no way in my lifetime I'm ever even going to travel out of Australia. And now I sit here, most days and talk to Michelle Griffin, who's in Florida, my LinkedIn bestie, my power partner, and we help each other's business grow. So it's really just incredible, the power of the internet. We moved on to MySpace. Anyone else joined in MySpace? Travis Lochner, if you're watching this on the replay, I know you were a huge fan. It was back in our heyday. But what social media platform did you join in on? Was it LinkedIn? Was it one of, Facebook? Like half the planet pretty much has used Facebook. So it's been an evolution on LinkedIn. So we've seen the platform obviously move from a very basic host your resume to we've seen, all kinds of ways that our LinkedIn profiles now are just amazing tools to really build our personal brands. And of course, we're not going to forget the company brand, are we? So, from that perspective, we've got company pages, we've got Sales Navigator, we've got LinkedIn Recruiter. Like, how many of these tools do we have available to us? So, one of the things that I actually like in my business is I have a soft spot for people over 50 who kind of doubt themselves on LinkedIn. Here's what happens, right? So they've had a career of, let's say 20 to 30 years, give or take. And, I'm rounding things up and down as I go. It's my show. I can do that, right? So what actually happens is they jump onto LinkedIn because it's the number one professional platform, B2B platform, and someone said to you, yeah, you really need to be on LinkedIn. Great idea. But then you got on there and you looked around, and then all of a sudden, everyone just seemed to know what they were doing. And then all of that life experience, all of that expertise just went, you threw it out the window, right? And so this is what we want to talk to today. And I'm really excited to have this conversation. And I also have Zoe has just joined me. So you get to hear both our fabulous voices now, which is excellent. I am so glad that you're here. And
I'm so sorry.
it's okay. It's live. This is the fun. So I want to catch you up. Here's where we're at. I've asked everybody to tell us where in the social media sphere did they join it. So for me, I'm back at chat rooms. So back in the late 90s, early 2000s, sitting in my bedroom, chatting away. Where did your experience of social media kick in? And then we'll jump in and introduce you after that.
I think also ICL, what was it called? MSL,
Oh,
MSQ. I can't even remember what they were called anymore. It was that long ago. But yeah, chat rooms as well.
yeah. And I was just saying, like, it was chat rooms. And then, LinkedIn's almost 20 years old. I'm only been using it for around 8. But now that you're here, I've been talking about you and I'm excited that you've joined us. Can you just share with people who haven't come across you and your team? Who are you? What do you do? And how do you help businesses?
Sorry, you cut out for 2 seconds. I've got this
Oh,
terrible
that's
internet connection, but
that's okay. Can you just introduce yourself so people can get to know who Zoe from social media is?
Sure. I'm Zoe. I'm the owner of Social Media. We're an agency that works with mainly B2B tech companies, helping them with, growing their businesses. But we also work with executives, a lot of executives, like 90 executives on their personal brand, which is like executive thought leadership is, and people to people social media is the future of social media.
Yeah, exactly. And so are those executives, they've had a pretty, I would imagine, stellar career in most cases. Do you find that they actually doubt themselves when it comes to social media?
I think the ones we work with, they start to get into it, but they just scared to share themselves. And, I always joke, telling your personal story isn't telling everyone you've got an ingrown toenail. It's sharing your expertise and sharing your experience and your story. But they get so shy. We even had like one executive, he was very senior in a very big company, like 25,000 employees. And he was like the head of technology. And he did not want to share anything personal about himself. And eventually, after a year and a half of like banging away at him, he finally's like, is that okay? It was like Parents' Day or Father's Day, I can't remember. And he shared a post that started, "This is not a technical post." That's like the opening sentence of his post. He had to lay it out there. This is not going to be a technical post. So it's interesting. They get very nervous.
Yeah, and you think about it, and these, like you said, are running huge corporations, have been extremely successful, probably present in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people in their day-to-day life, but jump onto a place like LinkedIn, and all of that confidence seems to go out of the window. And I see it all the time. For me, it's women over 50, especially, is how I, come across that. So they set up their consultancy business and are industry experts, and really highly regarded in their industry, and then put them onto LinkedIn and ask them to share that, and out the window it goes. So what can someone do to overcome this fear? Like, because it's more the majority of people, I think, than the minority. So what can we do and what can we share to help them to overcome this fear?
So it's funny because I think we know this with anything, that data drives decisions. So with someone like that tech CTO, um, when he shared that post, without a doubt, it was his most successful post. I think it had something like 2 million views, and he was blown away. So it became a matter of, okay, so what can I say next? So I think it's about finding one subject or one topic that they're that little bit more comfortable with, getting it out there. And when the data comes in and they suddenly, ping, they see, and it can be something as simple as sharing a picture of their team, or talking about, I think with one female executive, exactly as you said, it was about visiting India and teams in India, and it was during Corona. So she talked about, just wishing everybody well. That post also did really, really, really well. So it makes sense. People relate to people. So if you can get them to draw that little bit out of themselves that first time, let the data talk for itself, the rest comes quite easily after that. That's what we find.
Is it really the first one? Is the first one worst and it gets better from there, or does it go away with practice?
Yeah, it goes away with practice, I think. But I think that with anything on social media, it is, like the companies who want you to be funny, and they want like memes, and you like spend hours thinking, how can we be funny here? And then you put it out and it just doesn't go anywhere. And then they're like, oh, okay, but let's try it again. So you do it again, and then you do it again. And then after a while, they're like, okay, that was a lot of effort and it didn't get you anywhere. Let's go back to what we were doing before. So,
And
yeah, it's
do they
practice.
try and copy someone else? Is that where it falls over? Is it, I want to be like Gong, or I want to be like, insert whichever cool kids that are on, rocking their personal brands? Is it, oh, that's working really well, I want to copy that, and it's not like them or aligned to them? Is that why it falls over?
Yeah, and it's funny. It's normally the CEO who's like, I want to be Gong. And I don't know if you guys know the CEO of Gong. He's over 50. He's so cool. But not everybody can be that. And they are marketing to marketers and salespeople. This is a totally different audience. And you get these B2B tech CEOs who go, I want to be like Gong, but what they're not understanding is they themselves are not Gongish. They're nothing like the CEO of Gong. So it's very, very difficult to do. Very.
Yeah. And I call it, you've got to create your digital twin. If there's a Michelle J. Raymond offline and then I try and be something else online, it's draining. I avoid it like the plague. And it just doesn't even feel like it's fun. It doesn't, resonate with anyone that knows me. They're kind of like, who is this? Can the real Michelle J. Raymond please stand up? And so this is what I say to people: the more that you just be you, there is no other you on LinkedIn. So, just bring that to the table, because it's why you're successful offline. We're not asking people to be a LinkedIn version of themselves, is the words that I often use. And I'm sure you probably bang your head against the wall with some of your clients sometimes going, just be you. It's such
Yes.
simple advice, but it's actually what works, right? So, but is age an advantage or a barrier for becoming a thought leader on LinkedIn, do you think?
I actually find it to be a barrier. The reluctance level is much higher the older the person is. But I think it's like that. And it's funny because some of our executives, they run, as you say, they've got like years of experience. They've run technology companies. They've raised millions, sometimes more than millions of dollars. And then you say, we need you to embrace social media. And it's like, I don't know. And I think it's because they don't understand it. So what we do is we actually take people through a training of what happens on LinkedIn, like what actually happens, how does the content get into your feed? And it's really amazing. I don't know if you ever noticed, but when you go into your feed, normally your first 3 posts there, one will be a first connection, the next one's a promoted post, and the next 2 or 3, you'll find something that's a second connection, but someone you're connected to has liked or commented. And you're saying, oh, look, that's appearing there because you're connected to this person and they liked it. So if you think about the people you're connected to, and you think the people that work with you are connected to, if you're all engaging and liking, that's how your content is showing up. Now, if you want to be top of mind, share a voice, different people use different terminologies. If you want your company to be out there, then you need to start engaging. So we take them through this very logical, step by step of how LinkedIn is actually working, and they go, that makes sense. I can start to see if I'm connected to the right people and all my employees are connected to the right people and we're all engaging with each other's content, and you're not just putting up the company webinar and you're putting up the company white paper, but you're actually talking about value and pain, and you're getting into the people that you're talking to's head. And I say to them, this is where we come in. We come and help you with that. Then they start to understand it. At first, they're like, okay, let's try. Let's go in. We'll try it. We'll do it 2 or 3 weeks. But they start to see results really, really quickly. And that, as I say, data drives decision. That makes the difference.
Another Zoeism that you can add on to one of your coffee
mugs. Oh,
yeah.
I was just sitting there thinking, I need a mug for that.
Absolutely. And did you notice, I haven't used the word that you don't like the most in this conversation so far. So
awesome.
I will use awesome in this conversation just for you. But I think you gave me a leave.
With your Australian
because I'm Australian.
Accent, it's totally okay. It's when Americans say awesome, that's when I have a problem.
I love it. And I think, I agree with you. Training is such an obvious answer to fear, because there's so much assumed knowledge, unwritten rules, things that happen on LinkedIn that you can make small adjustments for big impacts. LinkedIn isn't complicated when you get the basics right. Like you said, just have conversations. Everything is just about how do I have a conversation with someone? It could be a post, might not be. Could be a comment, could be a direct message. There's all kinds of ways that we can have conversations. But I've found even recently, the more that the people invest in training, it's like this weight comes off, the light bulbs go on, and then it's like, is that all I've got to do? So now I can focus on what I need to and not get overwhelmed by, a new feature, algorithm, which is what the noise on the platform sometimes is. And so for me, I think training's the answer for confidence, and it can be done in a few hours. Someone like Zoe or myself can step people through and actually go, hey, this is all that's going on here, and take away the mystery,
Do you know one of the things we do, one of the tricks is to say, okay, listen, social media is this unknown, and it's overwhelming. There's no doubt. But pick 5 people, 10 people that you really need to be visible to. And let's just engage with those people. Do it for 2 weeks. Look at their profiles, comment on their content, like things, get visible to those 10 people. And that's something, if you make it into a bite-sized chunk, that's something that people can embrace, because then they don't think, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get swallowed up in these 10 hours of what am I doing on LinkedIn, right? And so, for example, we worked with an IoT manufacturing technology company, and they told us very specifically, we are in negotiations with Formula One. So I'm like, give me the names of the executives that you're currently talking with, and let's plan content that's relevant to them about manufacturing in the automobile industry and the future of manufacturing in the automobile industry. Give me some bites that would resonate with them. So we planned the content accordingly, and we just engaged during that negotiation period with Formula One execs. And what was really interesting to me was the CEO said to me afterwards, thank you. I have to tell you a story. I walked into the boardroom the day we went to sign and close the negotiations. It was before Corona when we actually walked into boardrooms. And the CEO that we were meeting with, or the executive we were meeting with, he said to me, the first thing, the opening sentence was, congratulations, I see your daughter just graduated university. And he'd been following me and reading what I was posting on LinkedIn. And he said, I didn't believe you in the beginning, but now I'm converted. And we've 3 years been working with him and multiple people within the organization where they are, where they're constantly posting and engaging on LinkedIn.
And I think it's targeted, right? And it's less overwhelming, and there's more chance of it being successful when you've got a strategy at play. That's what I'm hearing, is that we do the strategy up front, you get to understand and learn how it works, and then you see the results. And of course, why wouldn't you want to keep going? It's a no-brainer after that point. So
Exactly.
you and I have a very similar philosophy as far as all of that goes. But for anyone that's listening in that's maybe over 50 or somewhere around there, it doesn't really matter your age. But if you are listening into this and you're scared of getting yourself out there and having these conversations, these are, seem like really simple steps, but they're so effective. Break it down into smaller chunks, like Zoe just said. So I have, I don't know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage as being over 50s, as being a thought leader, but I'd love to know if we happen to have anyone that's listening in live today that, if you're, I'm going to say, in the bracket of 60% of LinkedIners, as we said, are between 25 and 34, do you get the pushback that people don't think that you can be a thought leader because you're only 25 to 34? Is there an advantage if you're older? Maybe it works the other way around. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that. So now, types of content. Content, let's go the other way. Say the person that we want to target is over 50. Is there a kind of content that you think works best for this audience?
Do you know, I've never really thought about it. We often get asked to be, more conversational and more gong-like, as you said earlier. And then I'm like, but we're targeting middle-aged men, in very techie roles, or like software architects or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not sure that language is going to work. And I've often found that the more direct you are, and even technical sometimes with those audiences, the more the content resonates. They don't want the fluff. They don't want the super creative stuff either. So yeah, I guess there is a language that works for different ages. But I think the opposite could be said as well for like millennials and Gen Z. Or Gen Z, sorry, I'm talking with an Australian.
I'll forgive you.
Remember myself there. A Gen Zer, that they are, without doubt, you have to talk in a different way to them. So yeah, I definitely think there is content that you need to think about the tone. You need to think about the value. They're less interested in fluff. They just want straight to the point. What is the value to me here? But I'll let you in on a secret, Michelle. I don't know if you found this, but even with younger people like me, I've got
Like
1
me.
year to go till I'm 50. Even with them, I find that if you just stay straight and you keep the content valuable and stop trying to be so clever all the time, unless you're a B2C brand like Pepsi or Burger King and you're a tech brand, just go straight to the point. Like, why are you trying so hard? Because you've got like such a minute percentage of opportunity to actually engage someone with what you do. Why would you waste it on a joke or on a meme or something that isn't necessarily going to connect them with your brand and what you do, or why you're different from a competitor, and how can you help them? And that, at the end of the day, is the difference between success on social, if you ask me.
Oh, look, and again, no disagreements from me on this one, is because, like I said, become your digital twin. Like, if you are not sending memes, like I think the days of sending joke emails were back in the 90s when we started in chat rooms. That was really cool back then. You would send, all those jokes and forward them on because someone sent them to you. But, these days, you've just got to be you. We're going to say this, probably 50 times in this conversation, is just be you, the person that's been successful in your career, successful offline. Just bring that person to LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be anyone different. And I kind of learned this lesson even myself. I shared just last year.
Are you there?
I don't know what's happened. You just keep talking for a minute and I'll get this sorted, Zoe. So
I'm
uh,
back.
you're back. I don't know what happened. We just got kicked and I'm trying to get my camera sorted. So
I thought
um,
it was me. I was like, I'm literally, I don't know if I told you, but I'm sitting in Austin, Texas. I came out here for consensus conference, and I'm like in a hotel room at 2 in the morning. 2 in the morning.
oh my
Something like
God. This is crazy. The joys of lives. Anything can happen and won't happen. That is craziness, my friend. That
oh
is
no, we lost
craziness.
all those amazing. There were some amazing comments before.
No, it's okay. They will be back. They will be back. We won't lose them. So this is cool. So where was I? I was saying, oh yeah, that's right. I got to Christmas and I just felt wrecked and exhausted because the person I was putting was a particular version of me, which wasn't false, but it was missing lots of other parts of me, like that I care about things and I'm passionate about helping other people and I wear my heart on my sleeve and all of these, I'm authentic, and I want to share about what works and what doesn't work. And then now this year when I do it, what do you know? Just by being me, and I don't care what anyone else's version of me is. You don't have to be like me or like Zoe. You just be you. And then all of a sudden, I'm surrounded by all these amazing people that are a reflection and enjoy me being me, And so you don't have to try and copy Michelle. You don't have to try and copy any influencers that are on LinkedIn. You just have to be you. And that's what works. And so, I had to swallow my own medicine, just over Christmas. And I can tell you, it is so much easier now. It is like enjoyable again. It's fun. It doesn't feel like I'm out to prove something. And, this is the message I want to most get across for over 50s, anyone actually that's listening, is just be you. Take the best of you and share that with people on the platform. But now you happen to manage, I don't know, how big's your team now? Are we up to like 20 something? Like it seems like it's just getting bigger and bigger.
Like over 30, over 30.
I feel like I call it like in my mind,
Right.
it's like the hen house. It's like I've just, it just keeps growing and growing and multiplying. So you've got a team of Gen Z for the majority and millennials, maybe by just observing.
Yeah, mainly
What are
millennials. Well, actually,
millennials?
no,
Are they?
lately we've been hiring a lot of Gen Z, so
Nice.
it's
So
so
you
interesting.
kind of at the other ends. I want and I just know because you've got this amazing team and I see all the great work that they're doing and you're such a stand for these young women. And I'm just, I want to commend you for that, because I can see that you're creating a workplace that's, really acknowledges them and supports them. And I know that that has a cost to your business as well, but you still wear that cost so that you can create a business that's, from someone watching from the other side of the world. I commend you for what you're up to. But what are your best tips for how do we deal with these, Gen Z millennials like that are on LinkedIn? Like, if we're on the other end, we're over 50 and we need to interact with them. How do we do it? Is there any tips?
I gotta be honest, it's really hard. We were in a conversation we've got these WhatsApp groups a few weeks ago, and how people use the I don't know, they sayings, whatever, like roll on floor laughing and laugh out loud. They were talking about how that's no longer used anymore. And it's now something on the floor, dying, crying. And I'm like, I don't get this conversation. And I was going to write a post about it. I must have sat and written this post like 50 times and then never posted it on LinkedIn. But it is actually really difficult because there's like a whole new level of language and understanding you have to put in there to be able to manage people, but also understand. Like, it's really funny. I've got a few now who are great at TikToking. They're great on Instagram. And I'm like trying to push them to go on LinkedIn and they don't want to be there. They're like, and it's funny what they'll say is social media isn't for me. It's not. And I'm like, but you're doing reels every day, and the funny reels and creative reels, and they see it as two totally different worlds. There's reels and there's TikTok, and then there's LinkedIn, and they're already kind of set. They got their first or second job. They're really happy. They're growing within it. And I'm trying to explain to them without telling them, if you build your professional brand, when you're ready to move on from social, because everyone moves on eventually, your professional chances are going to be much higher. They're going to be, so you've got it on both spectrums. You've got these much older people who are struggling to put themselves out there, and you've got these younger people who are out there in very creative ways, but don't understand that they can have a professional persona online as well. They like shy away from it. And it's really interesting to me. I'm like, every day it's this weird dichotomy, and I don't know how to overcome it. I haven't yet found a secret. Like with the executives we work with, I found a formula. You break it down, you train them, you get them into getting it out there, and then once it's out there, you use the data. With our younger generation, some of them are starting to embrace, and they share on LinkedIn, but they're not yet, and they're not quite there yet. It's so interesting. Or they'll take their TikToks and put them on LinkedIn.
It's really interesting. It's like literally the whole age spectrum. So I guess the message that comes out of this is it really doesn't matter what your age is, and this was just a topic of conversation that we wanted to have. It really doesn't matter because there's people in all ends of the spectrum and everywhere in between that are literally doing the same thing, going, I don't want to put it out there. And I don't know whether it's an anxiety around being judged in a professional setting. I've never quite got to the bottom of it. My secret way of getting around it with people, for especially the millennials, Gen Z, you get them to create content on the company page, because then their face doesn't come up and they're very happy to do it, but they don't want to do it on their personal profile. You can drag them kicking and screaming, no chance, but ask them to do it on a company page, winner. And so that's my one way of getting around it. Then when they get used to it, then we go, okay, let's just step over this way a little bit. So
take the same content, put it on your personal, but it does much better. Data drives decisions.
Yeah, look, and I think it's about having both, right? Because there is, they may leave, your business is your business, and, obviously personal brands. I'm all about get the best out of both, and so if it's a safe place to start, then start there, and then come across and nurture them and empower them, and have these kinds of conversations. So I love to wrap the show up each week, Zoe, with a tip that we can leave someone that may be listening and going, you know what, I'm really struggling with this. I want to be successful on LinkedIn and get started. What do you think is the first thing that they should do?
Start.
It's that simple,
really,
right?
Honestly. Yeah, it is. But, start with something small. Just go in, pick people you work with, and then start engaging with them. Okay? Because that already brings you visibility to the people they're connected with. So start very small and take baby steps along the way. I actually think you said something really that triggered for me. You said, people don't want to step out of their comfort zone and don't want to do something different, but we're also telling you to be yourself. So don't step out of your comfort zone. Find what you are comfortable with and just bring it to the platform, and if that means you're very straight, very technical, very, there, or taking your company content and sharing it, that's already a first step. So go start with what you're comfortable with and get on there. Consistency will bring you results. And then from the results, you'll have a drive to want to do more. So that's my tip.
Look, and I am just going to say ditto from me. Just take that small step, baby step, safe step, but take a step forward, because what I've discovered on LinkedIn is it's lots of little baby steps that, a couple of years down the track, you turn around and you go, whoa, how far have I come? And I still have these moments, every day where I look and go, my carousel sliders, I don't really like them now. But if I look back at the ones from 12 months ago, oh my God, I really don't like those. So, practice over time, looking for ways to refine, but take that baby step. So I wanted to say thank you.
From years ago.
Yeah, because I go back and have a look at, different ways that I can repurpose, and it's all saved in a folder. But I always want to look for ways that I can get better, and sometimes things will pop up as memories, in different places. And I just go, I should give myself a break. I should really be proud of what I've achieved, what I've created. I'm never going to be a graphic designer. It's not my skill set. So anything that I produce is better than nothing. And it's that's, better than most people probably put out there, because I'm prepared to learn in front of other people. And I think that's the lesson, is if you're prepared to learn, no one's judging. I think LinkedIn's a pretty tolerant and safe platform. We're not kind of, really, overwhelmed with trolls and different people like that. So, grow in front of other people. That would be my advice. So I want to say thank you, Zoe. I can't believe it's 2:00 in the morning for you. This is craziness. I thank you, 3:00. I will thank you. I will wrap this up. I thank everyone else that's joined the Good for Business show. The podcast will be out shortly, so that if you prefer to listen, then watch the replay. We'll have that all sorted. So thanks, Zoe, for your tips. I'm going to let you go back to sleep on that note.
Sorry about all the technical
There's nothing that any of us can do about any of that. That is just the way, that's LinkedIn Lives. There is stuff that happens. That is life with a live. So, but you just the show must keep going. And on that note, I'm going to end it. All right. Thanks, everybody.